Back corner, going on to part 6 for Sunday, June 26, 2022. Channel the first 5 parts if you have not already. You know what you do if you like the channel, or you appreciate the channel rather. Subscribe, hit the notification bell, like and comment if you want. But most importantly, share the content. Share content so it could reach other people. If you want to follow, as far as the specific translation that I read from, which is the Common English version, it's in the YouVersion app. It's in the App Store or Google Play, depending on your device. Where we last left off from, which was Deuteronomy 6, it was a footnote in verse 8 for Exodus 13. So this will be added into the repertoire to just a reference to that quick verse. I'll be reading quickly Exodus 13, and then we'll go back to Leviticus, pick up from chapter 19. I said Leviticus, Deuteronomy, rather. Deuteronomy 19, that's where we pick up from after reading Exodus 13, which will be right now. The Lord said to Moses, "Dedicate to me all of your oldest children. Each first offspring from any Israelite womb belongs to me, whether human or animal." Moses said to the people, "Remember this day, which is the day that you came out of Egypt, out of the place you were slaves, because the Lord acted with power to bring you out of there. No leavened bread may be eaten today in the month of Abib," which corresponds today, March through April. It's named Nisan after the exile. Just FYI real quick. Today in the month of Abib, you are going to leave. The Lord will bring you to the land of the Canaanites, the Hittites, the Amorites, the Hivites, the Jebusites. It is the land that the Lord promised your ancestors to give to you, a land full of milk and honey. You should perform this ritual in the month. You must eat unleavened bread for 7 days. The 7th day is a festival to the Lord. Only unleavened bread should be eaten for 7 days. No leavened bread and no yeast should be seen among you in your whole country. You should explain to your child on that day, "It's because of what the Lord did for me when I came out of Egypt." It will be a sign on your hand and a reminder on your forehead, so that you will often discuss the Lord's instruction. For the Lord brought you out of Egypt with great power. So you should follow this regulation at its appointed time every year. When the Lord brings you into the land of the Canaanites and gives it to you as promised to you and your ancestors, you should set aside for the Lord whatever comes out of the womb first. All of the first males born to your animal belongs to the Lord. But every first male donkey you should ransom with a sheep. If you don't ransom it, you must break its neck. You should ransom every oldest male among your children. And when in the future your child asks you, "What does that mean?" you should answer, "The Lord brought us out with great power out of Egypt, out of the place we were slaves. When Pharaoh refused to let us go, the Lord killed all the oldest offspring in the land of Egypt, from the oldest sons to the oldest male animals. That's why I offer to the Lord as a sacrifice every male that comes first, every male that first comes out of the womb, but I ransom my oldest sons. It will be a sign on your hand and a symbol on your forehead that the Lord brought us out of Egypt with great power." When Pharaoh let the people go, God didn't lead them by the way of the land of the Philistines, even though that was the shorter route. God thought if these people have to fight and face war, they would run back to Egypt. So God led the people by the roundabout way of the Reed Sea, or the Red Sea, the desert. The Israelites went up out of the land of Egypt ready for battle. Moses took with him Joseph's bones, just as Joseph has made Israel's sons promise when he said to them, "When God takes care of you, you must carry my bones out of here with you." They set out from Succoth and camped at Etham at the edge of the desert. The Lord went in front of them during the day in a column of cloud to guide them, and at night in a column of lightning to give them light. Way they could travel during the day and night. The column of cloud during the day and the column of lightning at night never left its place in front of the people. That was Exodus 13. You can consider that a bonus chapter, if you will. Let's go back to Deuteronomy and pick up from chapter 19, Deuteronomy 19. Okay. Once the Lord your God has eliminated those nations whose land the Lord your God has given you, and you displace them, settling into their cities and their houses, you must designate 3 cities for your use in the land the Lord your God is giving you to possess. Mark out the roads to them and divide the regions of the land the Lord your God is giving. The Lord your God is apportioning to you into 3 parts. These cities are the places to which a person who has killed can escape. Here is the rule concerning a person who kills someone and is permitted to escape to one of these cities and live. If it is someone who killed his neighbor accidentally without having hated that person previously, or if someone goes into the forest with a neighbor to chop some wood, and while swinging an axe to cut down the tree, the axe head flies off the handle and hits the neighbor, who subsequently dies. These kinds of killers may escape to one of these cities and live. Otherwise, the blood avenger will chase after the killer out of rage, and especially if the distance to one of these cities is too far, might catch and kill him, even though a death sentence was not in order because the killer didn't have prior malice towards the other. This is why I am commanding you as follows. Designate 3 cities for your use. Now, if the Lord your God enlarges your territory as he has swore to your ancestors, and he will give you all the land he swore to give to them, as long as you keep all these commandments, or all this commandment that I am giving you right now by doing it, by loving the Lord your God, and by always walking in his ways, you can add 3 more cities for your use along with the first 3. Innocent blood must not be spilled in the land of the Lord your God is given to you as an inheritance, or it will be bloodshed that will be required of you. But if someone does hate a neighbor and ambushes him, rising up against him and attacking him so he dies, and then escapes to one of these cities, elders from the killer's whole town will send word, and the killer will be sent back from there. Then they will hand him over to the blood avenger, and he will be executed. Show no mercy to such killers. Remove innocent bloodshed from Israel so that things go well for you. Now in the land the Lord your God has given you in your allotted property that you will receive there, you must not tamper with your neighbor's property line, which has been previously established. A solitary witness against someone in any crime, wrongdoing, or any sort of misdeed that might be done is not sufficient. The decision must stand by 2 or 3 witnesses. Now, if a spiteful witness comes forward against someone as to testify against them falsely, the 2 persons who have a legal suit must stand before the Lord, before the priests, and before the judges that are in office at the time. The judges will look into the situation very carefully. If it turns out that the witness is a liar, then the witness has given false testimony against his fellow Israelites. Then you must do to him what he has planned to do to his fellow Israelites. Remove such evil from your community. The rest of the people will hear about this and be afraid. They won't do that sort of evil thing among you again. Show no mercy on this point. Life for a life, eye for an eye, tooth for a tooth, hand for a hand, foot for a foot. That's Deuteronomy 19. Let's go to Deuteronomy 23 to end this part for right now. Deuteronomy 23. No man whose testicles are crushed or whose penis is cut off can and belong to the Lord's assembly. No one born of an illegitimate marriage can belong to the Lord's assembly either. Not even a 10th generation of such children can belong to the Lord's assembly. Ammonites and Moabites can't belong to the Lord's assembly. Not even a 10th generation of such people can belong to the Lord's assembly as a rule, because they didn't help you with food or water on your journey out of Egypt, and because they hired Balaam, Beor's son, from Pethor of Mesopotamia to curse you. But the Lord your God wasn't interested in listening to Balaam. The Lord your God turned that curse into a blessing because the Lord your God loves you. So don't be concerned with their health and well-being as long as you live. Don't detest Edomites because they are your relatives. Don't detest Egyptians because you were immigrants in their land. Children born to them are permitted to belong to the Lord's assembly, starting with the 3rd generation. When you are camped in battle against your enemies, guard yourself from every possible evil. If an individual in a camp becomes polluted due to a nighttime emission, he must exit the camp area and not re-enter. When the next evening arrives, he must wash himself with water, and when the sun sets, he can come back to the camp. The latrines must be outside the camp. You will use them there outside the camp. Carry a shovel, and with the rest of your gear, once you have relieved yourself, use it to dig a hole, and then refill it, covering your excrement. Do these things because the Lord your God travels with you right in the middle of your camp, ready to save you and to hand your enemies over to you. For this reason, your camp must be holy. The Lord must not see anything indecent among you, or he will turn away from you. Do not return slaves to owners if they escape and come to you. They can stay with you in your own community or any place they select from one of your cities. Whatever seems good to them, don't oppress them. No Israelite daughter is allowed to be a consecrated worker. Neither is any Israelite son allowed to be a consecrated worker. Don't bring up female prostitute's fee or a male prostitute's payment to the Lord your God's temple, to pay a solemn promise, because both of these things are detestable to the Lord your God. Don't change your fellow Israelites' interests. Don't charge, your fellow Israelites' interest, whether on money, provisions, or anything one might loan. You can charge foreigners' interest, but not your fellow Israelites. Do this so that the Lord your God blesses you in all your work on the land you are entering to possess. When you make a promise to the Lord your God, don't put off making good on it, because the Lord your God will certainly be expecting it from you. Delaying will make you guilty. Now, if you simply don't make any promises, you won't be guilty of anything, but whatever you say, you should be sure to make good on, especially according to the promise you made freely to the Lord your God, because you promised it with your own mouth. If you go into your neighbor's vineyard, you can eat as many grapes as you like until full, but don't carry any away in a basket. If you go into your neighbor's grain field, you can pluck ears by hand, but you aren't allowed to cut off any of your neighbor's grain with a sickle. And sorry if I've been stuttering all over the place, but that was Deuteronomy 23. I will be back to conclude, hopefully, with the next part, and I'll be Deuteronomy 24, 25, and Psalms 110. And listening to the corner with D-Dub. Be right back.